3 years ago, we launched the Great American Comeback. Tonight, I stand before you to share the incredible results. Jobs are booming, incomes are soaring, poverty is plummeting, crime is falling, confidence is surging, and our country is thriving and highly respected again. Bless you, and God bless America. Thank you very much.
Hard to put how unusual this was, from the Speaker of the House ending by pointedly ripping up the text of the speech, to the president here engaging for the second time the Chief Justice, who is sitting as judge at his impeachment trial, which continues tomorrow, to the Republican chant of 4 more years prior to the start of the speech. The dark parts were dark, the bizarre parts were bizarre, down to the awarding of the Medal of Freedom to Rush Limbaugh by the First Lady during the speech, which at so many points differed from the truth.
There were a few dramatic moments beyond just the bizarreness. Signing the tie here would be one of them. But the awarding of the Presidential Medal of Freedom to talk radio host Rush Limbaugh, not only announcing that he would receive it, but instead of doing it in the East Room with a ceremony and the president awarding it, having the president's wife, the First Lady, pin it on right there in the audience was just was an unusual thing, to say the least. But there was some drama and some moments where you might have noticed something happening in the room, but you might not have been able to tell what exactly was happening. At one point, there was a person who was ejected from the chamber, ushered out by security. We believe that was Fred Guttenberg, who was watching from the gallery. He is not a member of Congress or a senator. He is a man who lost his daughter in the Parkland shooting. And we believe that he shouted out something after the president started talking about gun rights. And Mr. Guttenberg was removed from the chamber. Tim Ryan, the Ohio congressman who ran for president earlier this year and last year, in large part on the strength of his gun reform proposals, also walked out of the chamber around that time. We're trying to keep track. We think it's about a half dozen members of Congress who may have left during the speech. But this had a lot of showmanship to it.
The chair declares the joint session of the two houses now dissolved. Then we go.
Showmanship by design from the president, but also a remarkable exclamation point, visual exclamation point there at the end from the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, as she tore the speech before setting the pieces of it aside before the president had even left the dais.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.
God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you very much.
When the Speaker, who has admonished her caucus on more than one occasion to, present themselves with you know, decorum and so on and so forth. She was just angry.
She ripped up the speech.
She ripped up the speech. I was just texting with a source close to her who said, I know this is probably a little obvious, but that was not planned. That was an emotional moment. That was a genuine reaction to what she just heard the president do.
She ripped it up and then she threw it
and she threw it down. And there are lots of reasons for that. Well, I mean, just on the substance of it, one of many reasons she would argue is because of what you just said about health care. Him telling the American people and the world that he thinks that pre-existing conditions should be...
He's going to guarantee it. It's a guarantee.
Should be guaranteed when he is, in fact, in court fighting to
take it away.
Dismantle Obamacare. I was at a meeting with her and with Chuck Schumer, the Senate Democratic leader, today, and they predicted that he would do exactly that. They're also trying to turn the page back to health care. So they were prepared for that. But the fact that, you know, both sides, everybody's so on edge. And even in this moment where usually they try to be on their best behavior again, they didn't even try.
It didn't take very long, Jake, for the White House to react to Nancy Pelosi ripping up the president's speech and then just basically tossing it.
Well, and it would be political malpractice for them not to do it. It was such a visceral moment. As Dana points out, it was not planned by Speaker Pelosi. It was obviously done because she was upset at what the speech was. And the White House has now tweeted, Speaker Pelosi just ripped up one of our last surviving Tuskegee Airmen, the survival of a child born at 21 weeks, the mourning families of Rocky Jones and Kayla Mueller, a service member's reunion with his family. That's her legacy. That's a quote that I'm reading. Obviously, when Speaker Pelosi is asked about this, she's going to say that she did not have an issue with those moments about mourning families or families reuniting the Tuskegee Airmen, that what the issue was that she was upset about obviously had to do with the more partisan moments of the speech in her view. But that is, of course, what we expected. And Dana Bash and I were talking about this.
Before you ask Dana, I just want to point out, Speaker Pelosi just tweeted this.
That's what I was looking at. I didn't mean to be...
Go ahead.
Well, there are a couple things. First of all, just staying on this topic, she told Fox up on Capitol Hill that the reason that she ripped up the speech is because that was the courteous thing to do.
Yeah, she said that to a bunch of reporters while walking in the hall.
Yeah, okay. So
why was it courteous?
I guess as opposed to throwing it at him? I mean, something like that, I suppose.
The point that she was trying to make is what she really wanted to do was a lot more...
Was a lot harsher. Than ripping it up.
So that was the nice thing that she sort of found to do. But separately, on the idea of the president, you know, kind of blowing off her attempt to shake his hand, this is what she said in a tweet just moments ago, and this is what you're referring to, Wolf. Democrats will never stop extending the hand of friendship to get the job done for the people. We will work to find common ground where we can, but we'll stand our ground where we cannot.
So one of the things that I think is interesting here is that Speaker Pelosi has been really effective at getting under Donald Trump's skin. And she has done, I think, generally speaking, a pretty good job at not letting his attacks get to her, while he makes it very clear when her attacks bother him. He has little outbursts on Twitter and the like. I think we saw a little bit of the opposite here. Donald Trump is having a week that is frustrating lots of Democrats. They had their Iowa imbroglio, a fiasco in the Iowa caucus. We still don't know who won that caucus, and we're still waiting for results. President Trump's approval ratings, according to Gallup, are the highest they've ever been. 49% approve, 50% disapprove. That's much higher than they were when he was elected. I think his approval rating was somewhere in the 30s, and he still was elected. Obviously, he has the State of the Union. Tomorrow, he is about to be acquitted in the impeachment trial, an impeachment that Speaker Pelosi did not even want to do. So this is, for Democrats, a very, very frustrating week. And I think that the speech, which I think was partisan, I don't think it's odd that it was partisan, but it was a partisan speech, really got under her skin, and she let it show that it bothered her in a way that usually she's better at hiding.
I think that's such an astute point, because one of the reasons why Nancy Pelosi in the past 3 years has become an iconic figure, a real iconic figure among Democrats, is because she is the person, from their perspective, the only person who should be and could be their leader to go up against Donald Trump because she gets under his skin.
And she plays it cool with her little hand, with her applause with the hands like this. The camera's not showing me, so I go, okay. When she did that whole thing, like, you know, when she did that, when she came out of the White House with her sunglasses on and her big red coat,
there's
iconic to liberals.
All those moments, her, you know, kind of taking the White House photo that the president thought made her look like an angry woman. And
she's pointing at him, across the desk.
Making it her profile picture on social media, all of those things, and tonight felt different. And the fact that she even is saying that, ripping up a speech, something that there's no question that kind of reaction would be and has been something that she admonished her own caucus not to do. It just shows you we're at a completely different place.
And they haven't spoken since October.
They haven't spoken since October.
And the president.
She confirmed that today.
And you can see when he first walked in, normally they shake hands, they pass along he presents the advanced copy of the speech. Afterwards, he didn't even turn around to look at the vice president, who's the president of the Senate, or the Speaker of the House. He just walked right out. And at that point, as he was walking out, she rips up the speech.
And I have to say, though, also, I mean, I see a lot of Republicans on social media talking about how horrible this moment was, how Speaker Pelosi has done away with norms that have lasted for decades. And, I'm not going to take issue with any of that. But President Trump has done away with norms that have lasted for decades as well, and many more of them. So, I mean, again, this is going to be one of these opportunities where one of these moments where we hear a bunch of people talk about how offended they were, and maybe they are actually offended. I mean, this was something Speaker Pelosi did that is certainly notable, and I could see people being bothered by it. But let's not forget also who she was reacting to and all the norms that he has destroyed.
And let's also not forget the impeachment. The President of the United States was impeached by the House of Representatives.
In that very chamber 7 weeks ago,
That's
where
correct.
he was speaking.
And the Speaker of the House, she's in charge of the House of Representatives and the Democrats. And as our White House team, our reporters and producers of the White House have been reporting, it was very clear that this whole impeachment process has really gotten under the president's skin. Because even though he's going to be acquitted tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern, he's not going to be convicted. He's not going to be removed from office. He's going to go down forever as an impeached president of the United States, and that has clearly irritated him.
I'm sure that bothers him, and I understand why it would bother him. But, I mean, we hear a lot of Democrats say this is going to be Speaker Pelosi. He's always going to be impeached. This is going to be a stain on his record for the rest of his life. Bill Clinton was impeached. He's been given a primetime speaking slot in every single Democratic National Convention since 2000. So, I mean, yes, it will always be on his legacy.
It irritates him.
I'm sure it irritates him. It would irritate me, too. But I'm just saying, like, presidents are able to go along and still be rather popular figures in their party, even after they're impeached.
Yeah, he's got, he's going to live with that. And even though it irritates him, you're probably right. Within that Republican base, and that Gallup poll that came out today has him at 94% job approval among Republicans.
Exactly. And with every day that passes, he is being told and being convinced by political advisors that as bad as it feels to be impeached by the House of Representatives and that be your legacy, politically speaking, in his quest to be reelected, maybe not so bad.
Well, his approval rating among Republicans is up.
Yeah.
So it has had at least a limited effect of rallying Republicans around him, not Democrats and not independents, we should point out, even in that same Gallup poll, but rallying Republicans around him. And again, we see his effort this evening, a speech that I'm sure his supporters, like Senator Santorum in the other room, really, really liked.
Yes, and the Republicans clearly are happy with him, and they want him to get reelected.
The state of our union is stronger than ever before.
President Trump delivering his State of the Union address under what can only be described as contentious and awkward circumstances. He was standing just a few feet from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who pushed his impeachment forward. And at the end of the address, she ripped what appeared to be her copy of the speech in half. CBS 4's Skylar Henry is live on Capitol Hill covering this interesting night in American history. Skylar.
Hey, Rudabeh, good evening to you. Interesting, to say the least. The president introduced his speech tonight, calling it the Great American Comeback. He highlighted several points throughout his speech, touting low unemployment even, and what he calls a blue-collar boom.
Madam Speaker, the President of the United States. President Trump walked into the House chamber where he was impeached in December to deliver his third State of the Union address.
Our country is thriving and highly respected again.
The president made no mention of his impeachment trial, which is headed toward a likely acquittal in the Senate on Wednesday. Instead, he stayed focused on his administration's achievements like the economy.
If we hadn't reversed the failed economic policies of the previous administration, the world would not now be witnessing this great economic success.
President Trump touted military successes, like the killing of Iran's top general and the appointment of conservative judges.
We have confirmed a record number of 187 new federal judges to uphold our Constitution as written.
President Trump also presented the Medal of Freedom to conservative radio host Rush Limbaugh, who is being treated for stage 4 lung cancer.
President Trump also discussed outstanding priorities like infrastructure and lowering the cost of prescription drugs.
Get a bill on my desk and I will sign it into law immediately.
House Democrats chanted H.R. 3 in support of their prescription drug bill. Michigan's Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer gave her party's response.
If the economy doesn't work for working people, it just doesn't work.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and dozens of Democratic women wore white in honor of the suffragist movement. A handful of their party colleagues boycotted the address.
Now, in addition to that ripped-up speech that you mentioned, Ruta Bay, it's customary for the Speaker of the House to introduce the president saying, quote, with high honor and distinct privilege. Speaker Pelosi didn't do that tonight. We're here on Capitol Hill. I'm Skyler Henry, CBS 4 News Tonight.
Now, inside the Capitol tonight, Donald Trump strode in to applause, clearly relishing the moment, and then he delivered a State of the Union seemingly unburdened by impeachment, ticking off all the achievements of what he's dubbed the Great American Comeback. So Paul Hunter is here to put the night in some perspective. Paul, what has Trump delivered this evening?
Well, it seems to be a blueprint for Donald Trump's re-election campaign, a recitation of achievements as he sees them, focusing largely on the economy, bullet points on the unemployment rate and job creation. He called it the blue-collar boom. He talked about the growth in the stock market and the prosperity he envisions still to come. Expect to hear a lot of this on the coming campaign trail. Here's a sample from early on in the speech.
Jobs are booming, incomes are soaring, poverty is plummeting, crime is falling, confidence is surging, and our country is thriving and highly respected again.
All of this tonight in the very room where Democrats impeached him in December. Sitting directly behind him is Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, who directed the impeachment process against him, rarely even looking directly at Trump as he made his case on why Americans should vote him in for a second term.
And in the matter of impeachment, did he go there?
Well, everyone wondered if he'd go off script, but he's pretty much stuck to it, and he didn't really take on Democrats directly. But one of the other tactics he's expected to take in the coming campaign, especially if Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren gets the Democratic nomination, is to push back against anything that even sounds like socialism, aka some of the Democrats' proposals to reform the health care system. His pushback tonight on that brought a big round of applause from his fellow Republicans. Here's some of that.
132 lawmakers in this room have endorsed legislation to impose a socialist takeover of our health care system, wiping out the private health insurance plans of 180 million very happy Americans. To those watching at home tonight, I want you to know we will never let socialism destroy American health care.
Look, this is a good week for Donald Trump. On this stage tonight, stronger poll numbers than he's ever seen. And tomorrow, if all goes as expected, indeed, he'll be acquitted in the Senate at his impeachment trial. He could say the state of the Trump presidency is strong. And as his re-election campaign kicks in, he wouldn't be far off.
All right, Paul, thank you very much. From the chaos in Iowa last night to the triumphant tone from Trump tonight. Our panel of political experts is watching. David Frum, senior editor with The Atlantic, is here with me in Washington. Republican strategist Jay Shabria is in Columbus, Ohio. And Democratic strategist Tracy Seffel is joining us from Washington. So everyone, thank you for joining us. I just want to point out that as Trump's speech was ending, Nancy Pelosi appeared to rip and then throw away a copy of the speech. If you haven't seen it, you really should see this moment. Let's have a look.
Thank you. God bless you. And God bless America. Thank you very much.
All right, David, let's start with you. Any surprises at the, the very visual divisiveness there?
Well, given that this may be the longest speech Donald Trump has yet given as president, and perhaps one of the top 3 longest speeches ever given by a president, I think Nancy Pelosi just showed really impressive forearm strength there.
Okay, not the answer I was expecting. Tracy, what about you?
Well, sitting behind the president as she did, I don't think she needs the paper copy to remember what just happened. That was an extraordinary speech filled with game show theatrics and some highly questionable assertions. And I think watching her face is a good barometer for how Democrats will be responding.
So given the week that this is, the Democratic disaster, that was Iowa, arguably, the Senate vote that's going to go Trump's way tomorrow. Jay, let's start with you on this one. Is this the speech you thought it would be?
Well, I don't know that you can ever expect a Donald Trump speech and be right on it, because there's always something different. There were some things that really surprised me. He's that reality talk show host. He's that guy that hosted that show, that hit show on NBC. And tonight what you saw was he was able to tug at the heartstrings a lot of times when he pointed to the gallery, when he pointed to military families that had lost a loved one. But then he also brought back a military man to reunite his family on live TV at a State of the Union. I don't know that I've ever seen something like that, and I'm sure that's going to go over very well. So look, he had lots of economic accomplishments he was touting. He had lots of partisanship, red meat for his base, and then he had these daytime talk show host theatrics, which I think is going to really play well.
Well, certainly Donald Trump understands the power of the medium. David, what about you? Is this a speech you thought you would hear?
Well, he's got a strong story to tell on the economy, and that's where he focused. He had some attempts at sort of some normal human moments. The speech in the, I think, final third really did follow, and this is the moment where the most partisan people are walking. It followed the line of his American carnage speech. Illegal aliens out there to kill you, endless wars. The speech turned quite dark in the last third. I think by then he had assumed that the regular viewers had stopped watching at the 1 hour mark.
Tracy, I'm curious about what it's like from your perspective, because this has not been a great week for Democrats. You were in Iowa. I imagine you knew last night that Republicans would seize on what has happened there and mock it. Now, we didn't hear that in the speech tonight, but how bad is it right now for Democrats?
Well, if there's one thing about Democrats, it's that we're used to the foibles and the fumbles, and last night was hugely unfortunate. There's no question. Now, was it some sort of catastrophic event? No, it wasn't. And the results will be in. I'm pretty sure the Constitution doesn't say anything about providing immediate results to cable news hosts. But you didn't quite know that watching coverage last night. It was, DEFCON situation. The results will come in. The problems will get fixed. It was human error, and it's most unfortunate. What I saw in Iowa was a really vibrant Democratic caucus with hundreds of people at the various precincts, excited and energized and really appreciating their moment as Iowans to do that unique and authentic caucusing. So there's really two storylines: what happened on the ground and the hysteria with which people have responded. There definitely was a problem and a mistake, and things will be fixed. But life goes on. Democrats know what happened last night is not in any way indicative of our losing focus on November and the goal to replace Donald Trump with a Democrat in the White House.
So I think one of the things that Go ahead, Jay, go ahead.
Yeah, see, and I appreciate Tracy's spin on this, but I don't know that Democrats ever had focus on the White House. I don't know that they've actually really focused on it. I think they've made tactical errors by going after Donald Trump on impeachment, which was appeasing to their base, but not really smart in terms of taking back the White House. Last night was an opportunity to showcase their message and to start to winnow their field. They lost that opportunity. And now they're in a news cycle where the president controls it again with this speech, which is largely pro-America, and now they're going to have to be seen as people that are cheering against American success. I don't know that the Democrats have ever had focus, and that's going to be the problem for them in November.
I have to say, one of the candidates, Bernie Sanders in this case, who quite likely will emerge victorious out of Iowa, his signs, I have to share this with your viewers, it was really interesting. They simply had 3 words on them, and it said, "Bernie beats Trump." And that was it. That's all his signs said. And I think that shows some focus right there. And certainly these few days, this week, is an extraordinary conflation of, or a perfect storm of events, if you will. And I have no doubt that there will be, the sort of quirks that will come of this, and people will all too happily point to Iowa as somehow the crumbling of the Democratic Party. And I can assure your viewers that isn't the case. Unfortunate, crazy timing. Everything that's happening this week, frankly, is unprecedented and crazy in its compression.
So I just want to say one thing. It is Washington. It is incredibly loud. There's always a sense of urgency here. Important people are always on the move. But I do want to get back to that State of the Union speech for a moment, because the president did not go there in the sense of mocking the Democrats or what happened last night, but he certainly went there in terms of being exceptionally boastful about what he has done. And I think we have a clip of him basically crowing about what he's accomplished. Can we have a listen to that?
Jobs are booming, incomes are soaring, poverty is plummeting, crime is falling, confidence is surging, and our country is thriving and highly respected again.
Okay, so we don't have much time left. I just want to get to you, David, on this point. You have written State of the Union speeches. Is that standard for the toolkit, or is that unusual hyperbole?
It's unusual because it's so exaggerated, because it is so weakly based in fact. What I think is really striking about the speech is how little it talked about the future. Normally what you do in a State of the Union address is, yes, a president takes credit where there's credit to be taken, but a president also gives an affirmative vision of what the president is like to do. When Donald Trump says things like the best is yet to come, what he's revealing is how vague he is. This is actually, in terms of things he's got done that he personally did, this is the thinnest record of accomplishment of any first-term president, and he has even fewer ideas for a second term.
On that point, this is just the last question to everyone here. Is there any reason to believe that we are not looking, you won't like this, Tracy, but that we are not looking at anything other than a two-term president? Tracy, let's start with you.
Well, certainly that is what Democrats hope does not happen. I'm happy to give Trump credit for his oversimplification and connecting with the audience by the simple noun-verb construct that he used there. I appreciate that, and I know that it resonates. Unfortunately, it was full of mistruths, exaggerations, and crazy overstatements. The Democrats, it's incumbent upon us to unpack that, but to do so in a way that is speaking at that same level. Trump's gift, if you will, is to speak at that very basic level. Democrats know that he was saying things that simply weren't true. All you had to do was look at Speaker Pelosi's face, and you could recognize every time he would strike a chord that was completely dissonant, she would react accordingly. And so it's incumbent upon the Democrats to make sense of that, but to do it in a way that is straightforward and convincing, and frankly reinforces that Democrats will not only be attentive to the growth in this economy, but ensure the security for working families. This isn't about Wall Street. This isn't about pharma. This is about working families.
I'm going to have to jump in there, Tracy, all of you. I'm sorry, we're going to have to cut it off here. David from Jay Shabria, Tracy Seffel, thank you very much for joining us.
Natisha Lands is tracking all the big moments that had social media buzzing tonight, and that is quite an understatement. It was a lot of buzzing moments.
Oh, yeah, Aisha. Well, it was easy to see that tensions are still running high between President Trump and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. So take a look at this. As the president handed Vice President Pence and Speaker Pelosi their copies of his speech, he appeared to ignore an extended handshake from Nancy Pelosi. Now, you see Pelosi give a little shrug and a smile afterward. Apparently, the two have not spoken since the heated White House Syria meeting, and it's the one where the president tweeted these photos of Pelosi, even calling her, quote, unhinged. Now, that was almost 4 months ago, since Pelosi has brought 2 articles of impeachment against President Trump. And it was about 19 minutes into the speech before the president received a standing ovation from Democrats. The applause was for Army veteran Tony Rakins. The president said the Cincinnati man turned his life around after battling addiction and homelessness.
With unyielding commitment.
Democrats stood with 3 fingers in the air when President Trump urged lawmakers to create legislation to lower prescription drug prices. The 3 fingers for H.R. 3, which is now known as the Elijah E. Cummings Lower Drug Costs Now Act. It is in memory of the Maryland congressman who passed earlier this year.
I am proud to announce tonight that you will be receiving our country's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
And the president surprised political radio host Rush Limbaugh with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. First Lady Melania Trump presented Limbaugh with that honor. It was just announced yesterday that he's starting treatment for stage 4 lung cancer.